What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SCSL Season 4. It's finally time for the round of 8. We're starting out here on Soup Live at a brand new time. It's 12 o'clock noon here at Pacific Standard Time. I am in Canada right now, so we're doing some holiday hours here. So if you guys are fans of the broadcast and want to catch it live sometime, go on over to souplive.com/SCTVEN. So we've got a great matchup here today, guys. Snow versus Royal. And we've had an awesome group so far, an awesome tournament so far. So let's go ahead and look at the group. Today is going to be Snow versus Royal. Next time, Action versus Hero, Best versus Barracks, and Rush versus Bishop. The round of 8 is looking awesome. Here are our maps for today. We've got first pick Eclipse coming on from Snow.
I mean, this is going to be really exciting, Saiyan. I mean, no surprise there for a first map pick on Eclipse from Snow. I do imagine this is going to be Snow taking down this series, although I doubt it'll be a very quick one. I imagine with especially the best of a 7 format, we're going to be seeing, a sizable series between these two guys. It won't be like, a short, sweet 50 minutes and we're done. I imagine some of these games will be going the distance, even if the Terran player can't hold his own. And it is his weakest matchup, it has to be said, versus the really stellar Snow Shuttle Micro. It's a little bit challenging for a Terran player here, but I'm hoping he can do some heavy lifting. Sometimes Royal surprises. He's a bit of a hit-and-miss player. Sometimes he really does show up and show some championship caliber play, though.
I'm pretty excited we're going to get Death Valley as map number 3. By the way, there's no vetoes anymore. We're going through the entire map pool, Eclipse all the way to Metropolis. So there's no way to avoid some of these crazier maps. And it looks like Snow is happy to play on Death Valley, choosing that as his second map pick.
Yeah, I'm super excited that we are guaranteed to get some absolute fireworks on that map. We've seen some really crazy stuff. I was recently casting a BSL match, a PvP grand finals between Bonif and DeWalt, and on that map we saw a one-base carrier build in a PvP. So like, it's crazy the build order range and the spicy variety you can have on a map like Death Valley. And as they say, variety is the spice of life, and I'm sure there's a lot of life in this series here coming up shortly.
That's for sure. Death Valley, we haven't seen much PvT in the ASL. A lot of players were vetoing that map here in the SCSL as well. In the round of 16, this map was vetoed quite a bit, but now that we're here in the round of 8, we're going to get a lot of opportunities to see that map played out in full. And what two better players to test it out to show us what's up on Death Valley? Snow versus Royal. We're starting out here. Game number 1 on Eclipse. Let's get it going. All right, guys, bring the hype. We're here in the round of 8. Snow versus Royal. Game number 1. Snow over here in the top right-hand corner. Royal in the bottom left.
Yeah, sending out that probe exceedingly quickly for that gas steal potential. Oh, he's actually going to throw down a pylon before going down there. Okay. That was a little bit slightly off-timed there, but, nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy. Just a second or two lost. Really common to see the really fast gas steal on this map. Like, it's kind of weird to not do it. There are some methods where you can block the ramp with an SCV or take the gas at 10 and then stop building it for a few seconds. But usually that's a bit suboptimal. But it looks like Royal actually maybe thinking about doing that here. Yeah, he's going to block the ramp with the SCV, Saiyan, already throwing Snow off his plan.
Yeah, this is something we saw out of Speed the most, but oh, it does slip past. Can he take the gas? He will take the gas. Okay. Takes the gas, just going to hold on to that. It will slow down his barracks timing. If there was something like a couple of gateways in the middle of the map or something, it could be a bit scary, but it's not the case. Gateway back at home. He will get this going. Build has been slowed down a little bit here, though, because of the SCV pull and the fail to block on the ramp. It's just such a hard thing to do. Such a difficult maneuver to pull off, but only a few players in the world can really do it against a player the caliber of Snow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bit of a tough spot to be in on as Terran on this map. I like the idea from Royal here, though, to try and throw Snow a bit of a wrench and obfuscate. But he's been careful. It's SCV, just one more hit. It's so close to dying. Needs to give it a little bit of a tickle repair. Probe also was very low on health. Gonna try and rotate around and hunt down this SCV that's currently behind the minerals. Snow seeing if he can at least deny that from mining for some time. Marine's on the way, but until that time, he's at risk of losing this SCV.
SCV gonna bail out here. So close to going down. Ring around the rosy, but he's just buying time for this Marine to finally pop out. Oh! The drive-by here, and the probe just heads out. That probe's got some swag on the way out of the base.
Oh yeah, that probe was definitely a gangster, saying that was insanity there. Gets out with 4 hit points and just goes back home to chill. Nexus about to be dropped here in the natural at 19 supply. Seemed like he did skip over this 14 Zealot at the start, and I mean, he did a lot of build order delay on Royal, so I mean, he doesn't really need this early Zealot. Royal trying to see if he can bump bellies with that probe and get the elimination on that probe, but Snow just so onto his micro, and he's been careful, dangerously close to going down with that probe, but wants to also get the chase micro on this SCV to prevent it getting back to home safely.
Flying a little too close to the sun there, but does manage to pull away at the last moment. Snow keeps his probe alive and takes the moral victory here, the lead with that one single SCV kill. Royal's mad about it. He's trying to get out here and get a little back, but hasn't been able to do anything with that early SCV, and looks like he's just gonna slip another one out on the map, see if he can get some more scouting information and inform his follow-up here. One Marine goes down and the bunker is on the way. The second Dragoon's gonna get here shortly, and that could cause a bit of a problem for Royal if he doesn't have a Marine in the bunker right now. Oh boy, that bunker's almost done. Can he actually get the kill?
It's close.
Oh, not quite.
I like that he's got this SCV out on the map to do a bit of a delayed scout, or is he thinking about dropping a starport down in that bottom right pocket? Not too sure. The SCV is just chilling out down there right now. That's either to put a starport or to do a bit of a delayed scout. Be one of those two things most likely. He's looking at it now. Is he building something with it, or is he just chilling?
Still just waiting there with the SCV. Something gets started. Starport down in the bottom right-hand corner. There will be a drop incoming. We've seen this play out time and time again when the dropship makes its way into the main right as the shuttle arrives at the Terran base. Sparks can fly, man. It gets pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed a little bit weird that he was just throwing 2 Marines and the Vulture up against the Goon like that, but it gave him so much space to slip this SCV out early and start this proxy starport. Maybe it'll pay off in dividends later. Depends on how on top of things Snow is. If he's got 2 Dragoons in his main and his mineral only, so his mineral expansion area, then he should be fine. But sometimes Protoss players, they get a little bit over eager and they don't always cover those bases, and you can see Royal kind of selling a bit of a red herring here to Snow and making him think that there's no way that Vulture drop could be coming with how he's playing. But eventually he will load up that dropship with at least 3 Vultures, and it seems like Snow might be thinking about protecting this lane to the 3rd base from any kind of Vulture shenanigans, and might not have enough back at home to defend against the dropship play.
Snow not overreacting to that one tank push with the Vultures, trying to lay down mines. Just good clean control here, backing up and pushing that away. But as he moves forward, there may be a drop coming into his base. The add-on is just finished up for this starport, and some Vultures are slipping out on the south side. This could amount to a lot of damage if Snow's not in position in time. Yeah, the Dragoons are all coming right up to the front. Snow is way out of position, man. This pylon might just be the saving grace, though. He's actually going behind these Dragoons and setting up mines in the retreat path. Snow bringing a lot of Dragoons up to the front here. Let's see if he can break this bunker while the drop is going on. There's the pylon scout. He sees the drop coming in. Big moment here, but did he actually see it? He's not really making much of a reaction. Instead, focusing on getting his Dragoons in range of that bunker. The bunker's taking a lot of damage, but it's not going to die easily. And a lot of probes are going down here. 4, 5, 6 probes have already fallen. And he's continuing to deal damage here in the main. Snow taking some critical damage.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of damage, Saiyan. But he does bust the bunker. Snow might need a little bit of flex tape to stabilize back at home. But with this bunker down, he can start to put the pressure. The siege mode just finished. Snow trying to pounce onto one of these siege tanks. Gets a lot of misses on that siege tank, though. And it's helping out Royal a lot. Does finally get the snipe on that. But a lot of these Dragoons dangerously low on HP. I think he's only going to get out there of like 2 of them left alive, and one of them is really dangerously low on health. Kind of crazy game already we're having, and Snow a little bit unoptimized back at home. Took him a long time to transfer the workers back down to the natural, so I would say that drop was exceedingly successful. It didn't necessarily kill a crazy amount of probes, but it also denied a lot of mining, and I think that this is a nice opening for Royal.
The position would have been extremely good for Royal had he kept that bunker alive, just keeping the right number of SCVs on it. But with that breaking and losing a few extra SCVs and a tank, the position is a little bit precarious. The third base is already up. Snow has map control right now. He's cleaning out a lot of the mines. Another drop is coming through. Royal gonna double down on this play, try to get a bit more damage here before he follows up with a push.
Yeah, and he's a little bit slacking on his economy. You can see just 4 factories total, not a 5th. And that's gonna also be a trigger now for Snow coming into the main base, trying to get a snipe on that tank. Does do so, going a little bit deep to try and see if he can get a follow-up shot on that, but not able to do so. Has to kill this turret first, but Royal with the pre-repair denies any hopes of sniping that zoning turret and doing any continuation damage. So far Royal holds pretty handily, just concedes 1 single siege tank. It's not the worst case scenario. The only problem is that, you know, with only 4 factories, while you can be aggressive, doesn't have the same kind of potency behind it. Usually you're going up into 5 factories to challenge this kind of shuttle Reaver style. Shuttle dangerously low on HP. Maybe if he can somehow get some Goliaths as well, you might be able to snipe that shuttle. Ideally he wants to make a CC and try and take a 3rd as soon as possible.
I see a big blob of purple in the top left-hand corner of the base. I'm expecting that to be a CC there. This is a tough map to take that 3rd base. There it is. Pushing out towards that 3rd. So many Terran players will break at that point. And I'm a little worried for Royal here, honestly. If he tries to push out here and Snow manages to get a couple of nice scarabs, there's a very good chance that Snow builds up a good gateway count and just bowls him over as he tries to take that 3rd base.
Right, yeah. I mean, this is all coming down to that early game. You know, the bunker bust, SCVs being pulled off the line. Even that early game shenanigan with trying to block the ramp against the probe and not being totally successful, having to put the gas a little bit too early. And then an SCV dying. I mean, everything all just adds up to Royal being slightly behind curve now. Might be challenging for him to take this 3rd base. We're going to attempt to do so anyway. 3 Goliaths are online. Now a 4th. We'll have 2-shot volley potential on that shuttle, even though it's already low on HP, so it won't be too bad. And also can easily start cleaning up some of these observers potentially. He needs to start making progress towards that 3rd right now, though.
Yeah, the 11-minute mark is just passing, and Royal is nowhere near that 3rd base. He's got a long way to move. And it's dangerous territory out here. The no man's land between the natural and the 3rd. Snow sharking around these sides, looking for an opportunity to dive on top of this. I'm not sure if he switched out the shuttle or if that's still the low HP shuttle that he's got here at the front. Reaver's going to get a couple of shots off. 1 tank kill. Does trade back a couple of Dragoons, so not the worst trade. Oh, okay. Dragoons taking quite a bit of damage there. And the Reavers are going to also take a bit of splash from that tank. Not the best Reaver control we've seen out of Snow. And oh, the mines! Oh, huge mine connections there. Snow loses both of his Reaver, an uncharacteristic mistake from this insanely strong Protoss player. He almost never screws up with his Reavers, but there it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a macro beat that's gone horribly wrong. He's unloaded the Reavers to kind of like save himself a little bit of time and like taking his attention back to home, doing some macro rounds, and was going to go back to the Reavers to micro them against the Terran advancing to the high ground. Didn't anticipate some mines being there. He just did the unload command and went back to home to macro. Unfortunately, a little bit offbeat is Snow. Pays the price for it. Royal establishes the third pretty convincingly. Snow probably feeling a little bit desperate now to make something happen.
We'll see if he wants to pull the trigger on an attack now. It would be difficult to break this position without that extra oomph from the double Reaver. He might be able to come forward here with some Storms. I saw some Templar at the rally point, and 3 shuttles is a pretty good amount to try and break something like this, but the spread is looking very strong. There's lots of mines here, and the army is just not that big for Snow yet. Might be a good idea to go ahead and just grab that 4th base. He will land on the high ground. Storms here, going after a lot of SCVs. Huge SCV kills up there, and will make an Archon after the fact. I think this is a good middle ground. He couldn't break the army, but at least he could do a little bit of economic damage while getting his 4th base up. I think this is a good middle ground for Snow.
No, this is a great answer from Snow. He's expanded again as well, trying to get a 5th base online during all of this. Royal kind of has to push, by the way. Like, if Royal just sits on these 3 bases, he's in trouble. He kind of has to attack now after drying up the Protoss forces that much. I really do feel like Royal should start advancing. Does seem like he's starting to agree with that assessment. I'm not sure how much he's going to want to commit to this. Does look like he's rotating around to this top lane. Could secure a 4th and push on this axis to challenge that newly established 5th. But it seems like Snow, being active with these shuttles, going to keep drawing the attention of Royal back for more continuation damage at this natural 3rd. And Snow kind of defending by attacking right now.
Yeah, this is very annoying for Royal, who's moving up towards that 4th base, but he's being drawn back again. Oh, another great hit from that Reaver, killing off 3 vultures there right at the tail end of that, and keeps the Reaver alive as well. Backing up into that corner, he will continue to harass from that high ground if Royal decides to push that direction. Royal getting a little bit of return harassment, but he's really been slowed down a lot by all these plays from Snow, getting into his +2 now, and Royal sitting here at 130 supply. It's not quite enough to spread all the way onto a 4th, so he's kind of stuck here, not able to push, not able to take that 4th just yet.
Yeah, seems like Royal's answer is trying to attack the 4th in the bottom right. He's got a lot of units making their way into that facility, and with the upgrades, can do a little bit better job shutting down some of these cannons. Going to work on the probes now. There's a few more cannons warping in to try and shut this down, even getting lifted up into the shuttle for a bit of evacuation there. Massive mine connections onto those zealots. That is some beautiful hits for Royal. He hasn't killed every single probe there because the majority of them went into the shuttle, but he did a lot of damage to that expansion, killed a few probes, killed a lot of the zealots, but he's still not out of the woods. Snow will get these 5 bases established, and might be a little bit tricky for Royal to take his 4th.
Surprised to see Snow didn't have a pylon wall at the top of that ramp with some cannons behind it, allowing all of those vultures up onto the high ground. Allows him to just break that without really committing too many forces, just sending a small wave of vultures, getting a whole bunch of probe kills and a lot of zealots, forcing the lost mining time. It's fantastic for Royal. These are the small moves that he needs to keep making in order to give himself a possibility in this game. He's hurting right now. He's down a couple of bases. Like, having the Protoss ahead of you 1 base is is all right, but you need to keep this 2-base mining going, and he's running out of mining at his natural and his main base. He needs that 4th here quickly, or he's going to go down to 1 base and completely fall behind Snow in terms of that production.
Yeah, he's definitely aware of that. He's going to try and commit a lot of tanks to taking this high ground now, about 20 or so. Storm from the high ground, getting a lot of splash damage, though. A little bit of a lackluster job in pre-splitting these siege tanks. Those storms are deadly. We do see a D-Matrix trying to buffer against that spell of the Psionic Storm, doing a pretty good job at doing it, but the value here for Snow is just so immense. Seems like he will be able to start to secure this high ground, but Snow, with a lot of forces in reinforcement, going to start making his way downtown to challenge this attempt from Royal and make it so cost inefficient breaking up here.
Yeah, this is rough, guys. Look at how many tanks are being killed. Even targets down the science vessel as he's trying to come up this ramp. Oh my god, so many storms, man. That's got to be like 12 storms. This army
quite
is
literally
eviscerated. There's nothing left here. How is Royal going to get this 4th base online and still have any momentum to do anything on Snow's side of the map? We might see him try to just split this map in half like we've seen players like Sharp do. Eclipse is such a difficult TVP map. Sometimes it's better just never to attack, hold the center left and top left, and just kind of grind down the Protoss player in the late game. This may be the direction we're heading now.
I think that's the only choice he's got left, saying honestly, with how these trades have been going. Does take out one of those shuttles. Can he get the other? Does find that the Reaver's on tiny bit of HP. Does get some good target fires on those critical utility units, but still, somehow, Snow finding a lot of beautiful connections with those Psionic Storms and really starting to force this Terran into a state of dwindling now. He's got a few reinforcements rotating up, but Royal needs to cover his other lanes as well. He's worried about other counterattacks coming to his rally point, so he can't commit his entire army to taking that base smoothly. Meanwhile, Snow taking another base in this bottom right, and we are at that point in the game where now is only just 1 base worth of mining for Royal. He desperately needs to secure this 4th. Snow knows it and is even getting a bit of a carrier transition underway as an insurance policy, and also just to throw Royal off when he does scan the main base. Hasn't actually produced any carriers yet, but he's keeping that option open.
Finally, it appears that Royal has managed to secure this 4th. Another round of units making its way forward. That's a great storm right on top of the science vessel, and all these vultures eating that storm means that there's very little to hold back the next rally of Zealots. Is going to be able to push this away finally. Will get that mining going, but Royal is in a tough spot. Look at this. Snow already taking top left. He's just going to go ahead and throw a Nexus over there. He's not expecting to get a lot of money off of that, but he knows that Royal is too overextended to try and take that right now.
There's going to be a bit of a gambit now for this top left position. Snow's going to take it to make it harder for Royal to take himself. And you can see now the carrier transition underway. 1 carrier in production with a 2nd Stargate. He's going to have a little bit of insurance policy to fall back on just in case Royal's able to establish this top left base as well. Vultures chipping away at that Nexus. It is getting pretty low, but might be able to save it just barely, despite these mines trying to do a lot of heavy lifting. And Snow has done such a great job in slowing Royal down, though Royal now with the 2nd base isolated away from Snow for the time being, will go on the offensive and try and both knock out this base in the top left and secure for himself.
Gonna take a pretty good trade here from the high ground, just pure Zealot Dragoon. Not gonna trade very well against this, but that carrier clock is ticking slowly but surely. Snow's gonna add those in to his army, and all he needs to do here is slow down Royal as much as possible. Keep him on the back foot. Snow is mining a bunch of resources from bottom right, and as long as he gets to 6-8 carriers here and continues to have that mining in bottom right, he's gonna be super happy to allow Royal to take this. Eventually, he will get control over this top left-hand corner, but by that time, Snow will have just infinite interceptors to continue fighting over that and just keeping it away from Royal. It's going to be a battle over the top left, no matter which way you slice it. Wait a second, Royal pulling the trigger, just coming out here in the middle. I was not expecting him to just go across the map right now.
I don't think he's expecting it either. He's pulling back now, kind of thinking better of it, maybe just trying to make Snow rotate his army around rather than consolidate too many forces to the top left. You can see that Snow saturated this top left base way before the second base in the bottom right. He wants to try and squeeze out as much juice from that base as possible before Royal finally secures it. Good reactionary D-matrixes to these tanks on the periphery to try and buffer against those Psionic Storms, but still Snow getting those spells off. He wants to kill this Nexus as soon as possible so Snow can't mine it out too much here. Snow wanted to try and, you know, keep this base under control for another minute or two and eliminate as many of the minerals from the yield as possible, so that the longer this game goes on, the more that base will dry up for Royal in a, you know, split map situation. Trying to dive on top of the CC now. There is a train of SCVs coming to pull those back. Massive storms on all of those SCVs, a lot of them going down. They start to repair a tank and fall on that as well. Just complete relentless play from Snow, trying to get maximum value from this splash damage spell and keeping Royal from taking this top left pocket while these carriers come online.
The carriers are going to have a field day in this top left-hand corner. There's so much open space where the Goliaths just can't run them down. It's going to be so hard to hold this top left base. Royal, he's got almost no momentum here. He's slowed to an absolute crawl, finally landing that CC and sending another round of SCVs up here. He has started building a lot of Goliaths, so it's pretty clear that he knows what's going on. He knows that this carrier transition is underway, but we'll see if he's got this fourth base or this fifth base online in time. Will he still be able to contend with Snow, who's been mining off the bottom right for so long?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. He's got 3 carriers currently making their way across the map to put on some additional pressure. I mean, Royal has technically achieved his goals, though. He's definitely still in this fight. Just now needs to muster enough critical mass of these Goliaths to start keeping these carriers at bay. Snow, though, going to be trying to ram it down just before that occurs. Getting a lot of double value on these storming tanks and Goliaths alike. Looks like there's a little bit too much to chew through, though. And now Royal's going to want to go on the offensive and try and put a lot of pressure onto this natural fourth base of Snow. There might not be enough carriers out to slow this down.
That carrier number is going to hop very quickly from 3 to 6. Nice storms here from the high ground, but that's a pretty strong ball of Terran mech. That's a lot of Goliaths, a lot of tanks that are pushing towards this high ground. Is it possible that Royal can break Snow right here, take over this base location? There's not a whole lot of money left over here. It's not the biggest deal, but look at that. There's the 6 carriers now making their way forward. The storms from the high ground. This is the ultimate composition when you've got carrier plus the ground army with storms. It's incredibly difficult to fight.
Yeah, all hands on deck for Royal. He knows he's on a bit of a clock. These carriers have arrived, but they haven't yet got the interceptor number to easily thwart this Terran advance. Snow in a little bit of a tactical withdrawal right now, trying to cycle some more units out of the gateways to come over here and support these carriers. He's going to start deploying his interceptors on his own units and then go for a counter-attack here. This is basically Protoss 101. When you can't fight the Terran head-on, you circumnavigate and launch counter-attacks. And that's exactly what we're seeing from Snow right now as he rams it down in the middle, trying to get on top of the rally point of Royal as he's knocking out this Nexus.
And he's going to make some great progress here, sniping down these tanks with the carriers and pushing up towards this main base. There's only 3 tanks on the low ground. The 6 carriers will make very quick work out of them, allow the Dragoons to really deal their damage, picking off a lot of Goliaths here at the rally and forcing a big retreat from Royal. This will open up other opportunities for Snow, but he's got to keep these carriers alive, dipping away from the Goliaths as they make their way back.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to intercept these carriers with his Goliaths. Needs to be careful. This is a bit of a pinch point for the Goliaths. A very tight little choke that Snow can exploit, especially with the high ground to retreat to. He's killing so many of these Goliaths. Royal with a bit of over-eagerness, trading a little bit poorly, but he has fought Snow back technically. He's got just the bare minimum threshold of Terran to survive. I don't know for how long. Snow's starting to become mined out. He's just down to these 2 mining bases in the bottom right after losing that natural 4th. Royal churning away on these 3 bases. Technically, he's in a good position if he can somehow keep churning out enough of these Goliaths to go toe-to-toe with Snow. But Snow's going to rotate around and put a lot of pressure onto his top left pocket.
Royal's got to run his army up into this top left, get his Goliaths into position as soon as possible. Lots of turrets have been made over here to try and preempt this carrier attack. There's not quite enough ground army for Royal to hold things back. You can see targeting down the tanks. Now the Zealots and Dragoons can get in here and really start to do their work. Templar coming down as well. That is so many Templars, Xun. He is going to be laying down blankets of storm on everything in this tight area. Terran just doesn't have any room to maneuver. He can't dive on top of the carriers, and the tanks are just free game for these interceptors to gun them down. More and more of those tanks are falling. Some good connections come out with those tanks, killing off a lot of the Dragoons. Most of the Templar are now gone, but he can always just back up a little ways and kill off that CC, and he does so, forcing Royal back down onto just these 2 final remaining mining bases, and you gotta imagine the 3rd is just about out of money.
Yeah, there's a counterattack here from Royal in the bottom right, trying to see if he can squeeze out these bases over time, but unfortunately there was already some tactical high Templars there on the high ground to shut that down. Unfortunately for Royal, he's lost his lifeline in the top left, as well as like fallen flat on his face now in the bottom right. There's not much hope for him now in this game. 114 supply to 180 of Snow. Snow is technically only mining on 2 bases, but that's more than enough to keep these carriers fresh of interceptors, as well as build a lot of ground support to assist them in trading. That's 9 carriers, such a potent number to contend with. Unless you've got a massive ball of Goliaths to go toe-to-toe with that, you're in a lot of trouble. And here comes Snow for some more continuation, deploying all those interceptors. One snipes the vessel, and with some Dragoons on the ground, going to easily challenge these Goliaths.
Another couple of carriers come up here and join this force. It's almost unstoppable. Snow, he does lose some probes in the transfer. That's very good stuff from Royal to get in the way of that and try to slow down that income. But the carriers, and they just need a little bit of mineral feeding in slowly but surely to keep that interceptor count high. And this is what I was talking about. They can run wild here in the top left. There's so much just annoying terrain here to deal with. There's the GG call. Ooh. Dude, Snow played a great game of just delay tactics to get one over on Royal.
Oh, from start to finish, saying it was really impressive. There's not really a whole lot Royal could have done there, unfortunately. But it was Snow's map pick. It's very difficult with that almost guaranteed gas steal at the start. He was forced to slow himself down a lot, blocking with the SCV on the ramp and then losing an SCV. And he took the gas before his barracks, for example, and didn't build it for a while. Everything was like so unoptimized for Royal in this game going forward. He basically could only afford 4 factories where he should have had 5 or 6. And that made everything just so much slower. And, you know, the timing of getting that 3rd online was delayed by another 30 or so seconds. It just, everything was really delayed for Royal from the start of the game into the mid-game phase. And even in the late game, having a hard time establishing additional bases and keeping the Protoss player at bay. He had one very convincing attack to taking out this natural 4th of Snows, and for a moment looked like he might be going toe-to-toe, but this is a very difficult map to navigate on as Terran. These lanes just make it so hard for your army to move around the map and rotate from base to base, and there's just not a lot you can do against an experienced carrier user.
All right, guys, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, game number 2 between Snow and Royal. All right, guys, we are back. Big apologies for that delay. We had to download another file here, the SCSL file on Africa TV was split into 2 parts, and I didn't recognize that. I didn't notice that until we got to the end of that first file, and it was only the end of the first game, so we just had to re-download that. Hopefully, I'm going to reach out. Well, I am going to reach out to krrrrzzz. Hopefully, we can get him to cut this part out of the video, and it'll just go directly into game number 2. Won't have all of that downtime. Thank you, everyone who stuck around for the live stream. We're going to be jumping into game number 2 right now. Let's go. Without any further delay, here it is, game number 2 between Snow and Royal. Royal spawning in the bottom right, Snow in the top right. On Royal's map pick, Radeon, we've got vertical positions.
A lot of suspense for this game now, saying I'm super curious what's going to happen between these two. I do still think that Snow is going to essentially dominate Royal in this series one way or another. But let's be real, that was a Eclipse pick for Snow in game number 1. It's a pretty strong map of BBT. Maybe Royal can fight back strong on this macro map, Radeon. And it's not cross map with an Nexus first, so he's got that going for him to begin with.
Yeah, you got to give it up to Royal for hanging in there on Eclipse for as long as he did. Like you said, pretty tough map to play TVP, and he brought it all the way to late game. Snow kind of directed him in the direction he wanted him to go, though. Like, he was really controlling the flow in that game, forcing Royal into just kind of an expansionary style where he's just slowly creeping up towards that top left, and delaying him until he can get that big carrier transition going. Snow handled that beautifully. Now here on Radeon, not going to be able to steal that gas and direct the flow of the game quite as easily.
Yeah, and this is, one of the better situations you can get as the Terran player. Don't have to worry about that horizontal spawns for quick Reaver access, and it's not cross map, so there's no 12 Nexus that's hard to punish. So with these vertical spawns, probably one of the better case scenarios here for Royal. He hasn't elected to do a bunker expand or anything fancy like that. Just doing a pretty normal build, it seems. But I mean, with the kind of early game shenanigans from Snow, he's actually kind of cut from mining gas a little bit here. Look, he's only got 80 gas in the pocket. Is he going to bunker expand anyway? Look, he was mining gas to 80 and then he just stopped. And it looks like he's going to throw down a CC anyway. It's kind of like a build that he's now going to redirect into a bunker expand after realizing that Snow's not bottom left and that this might be a better option for him to just get this quick CC underway.
Yeah, this is kind of like a Mong build where you're going to get the gas and the CC, and with the factory coming up after, it's not as quick of a CC as the bunker expand, but it's got a much faster factory. You can't really be punished by the early Dragoons, and Royal's done this kind of on the fly. He had Snow in his base. Snow saw the mining on the gas, and then Royal pivots and throws down the CC. So he's trying to throw Snow off a little bit here and get out a faster CC than Snow really would have expected, and this might pay off for him. It's not going to give him a huge advantage or anything like that, but it might allow him to get into a slightly better economic position and throw off Snow as to what the build's actually going to be.
Yeah, and I feel like he anticipated there'd be no 14 Zealot pressure out from Snow, and there hasn't been. And with this slightly faster factory, Mong-esque style, as you say, this tank timing won't be lagging behind too much, so it will be a little bit more trickier for Snow to punish this and snipe this bunker or force a very significant repair bill, as well as easily bully that first tank with the 4 Dragoon count. So I mean, this is okay for Royal. Like, it's not super optimal, but I like this adjustment.
He's prevented Snow from really scouting the CC as well. So Snow, he can't really be sure what's going on here. There might be a second factory. He just doesn't really know. And I don't think he suspects that the CC was thrown down immediately. He hasn't seen any vultures or tanks come out just yet. Those could be hiding. They could be hiding those back a little bit and you know, building up that count. But Snow really can't know for sure whether this CC was thrown down or not. He's going to go ahead and get his Reaver going, just kind of sticking with the build that he originally chose, and it's a pretty strong build. He's got enough Dragoons out here to keep himself safe, and he will have that Reaver out for some harassment and figuring out what's actually going on for Royal.
You can see how passive Snow's being with these initial Dragoons. He just doesn't know what's going on right now, and he's kind of hedging his bets and just making sure that if this was something fancy, like a Proxy factory, for example, it is technically possible. It could be something weird like that. He's just making sure there's no free damage that comes online for Royal. He's going to play super safe and wait for this Reaver to pop out. But really, this is just a little bit of an economic greed build from Royal. Nothing too crazy, and he's kind of fooled Snow thus far. I mean, it's not like Snow's in a bad position or anything. He's just not even forcing a repair bill out from this bunker or what have you. And even if he did somehow go across the map with those 4 Dragoons, a second tank would almost be finished up right as they arrived. Now Royal going to be keeping those units fluid inside the main base, waiting for that shuttle and a Reaver combo to show up. And it looks like, yeah, he's going to be getting some Goliaths out alongside those tanks and cutting on making too many turrets, and instead going to be relying on these Goliaths to do some heavy lifting.
This is a bit of greed as well from Royal. It could work out very well for him, or it could go incredibly bad. We'll see whether he's able to track down this first shuttle. It's going to come in now. He sees it in the main. Goliath is ready. Goliath over at the natural as well, and this, he pushes it back, no problem. His eBay will be finishing up here soon. He can start to slowly add on those outer turrets while keeping the core of Goliaths here ready to counter that shuttle. Snow moving forward now, realizing that Royal must have gotten away with a bit of greed here, and he needs to do some punishment. Trying to get in here with the shuttle, but still pushed back. This is really good defense from Royal.
Yeah, this is very Flash-esque. We saw this a lot from Flash back in the day. He was experimenting with this style before most of the other Terran players were cutting your eBay for quite a significant amount of time and using your Goliaths as mobile defense platforms. Now I'm going to be trying to break this turret, and the tank on the high ground might be sniped as well. Does manage to find connections on that to finish it off. Bunker goes down as well. Royal needs to be a little bit careful here not to bleed off too many of these units to Snow. It's kind of been even trades thus far. Slightly Snow favored. He's going to rotate around into the main, try and exploit the lack of turrets, and see if he can get some continuation damage and shut down some of these SCVs building these factories right now. But now forcing the issue is Royal. The shuttle's going to go down. Now the Reaver's dead in the water. He's going to kill this tank as compensation. But, you know, I think that actually favors Royal overall. And Snow's expansion at the 3rd is towards Royal. So this is slightly suboptimal positions for Snow, I would say.
Yeah, that was a scary moment for Royal for sure when he lost those 2 Goliaths at the front of the natural and he didn't have the turrets up in time to cover the main. I thought that we were going to see Snow do his normal thing where he just pulls apart the Terran player with a single Reaver in the shuttle. But in fact, Royal manages to gun that down. Nice snipe there, getting one of these tanks as things are starting to push out, but Snow is fully on the back foot here. He should have some more Reavers coming up soon. There's another Dragoon run in. Gets another couple of tanks. No, the second tank does live. That's a big moment there for Royal to keep that alive at least. No, he loses it there at the periphery. Oh, Royal being a little bit sloppy with that push forward, but he's got Snow on the run.
No, I think this is still good for Royal. There were some nice tank snipes here from Snow, but now the counterattack from Royal can go online. And with this natural third here, he kind of has to evacuate. Yeah, he's pulling the probes now. I was identifying that this was a little bit of a weak soft spot here for Snow with these positions. And unfortunately, it looks like a little bit of a win condition from Royal will start to be executed. Nearly loses some of these Dragoons to some mines out in the center, now putting a lot of pressure onto this natural third of Snow. He's basically putting him on a clock and forcing him to do something. It looks like the answer from Snow is to run to the rally point of Royal and see if he can put on any counter pressure there. These Dragoons are a little softened up. He needs to be careful about those. Maybe he can at least kill a couple of these vultures. Rally point, trying to reinforce those Dragoons for a total of 8, but it seems like Royal's pulling back from this effort. There's a Reaver as well clearing out that contain at the natural third, so Snow will keep this Nexus alive and start to threaten the idea of a counter-attack here, basically defending by attacking in both games so far.
Ooh, he saves the turret, just barely with that repair. One more shot will take it out. He really wants to get rid of that turret so that the shuttle has free reign over this army, but managing to keep that alive is pretty big. Royal going to continue this push. Couple of tanks just barely managed to sneak by and make their way over towards this attacking force. Now with 5 tanks there, he may be able to break that Nexus. He's got to be a little bit careful about it though. Snow is putting together an army that can crack this.
Yeah, it's got one siege tank and raise that Nexus now to try and put a clock on that. Snow with a counter-attacking force, putting pressure onto the rally point. There's a few mines here that are going to get cleaned out very quickly. Turret and tanks making it a little bit challenging for Snow to poke in there and do any follow-up damage. He needs to commit with all of his forces to do so and wants to make sure he's got a maintaining standing army to challenge this contain. He doesn't ideally want to let this Nexus fall. He is taking a 4th base behind this supplement, but if he can help it, he wants to keep eliminating these tanks over and over again and slow down Royal from sniping this base, and he will save it for the time being. Pushes Royal all the way back to his natural third, now trying to get on top of this slightly later siege from Royal. Only 3 tanks remaining. There's enough Dragoons here to bully this, as well as a Reaver dropping in support. 2 Reavers actually. That's some beautiful Scarab connections, and these tanks are now essentially dead in the water, out of position. Snow capitalizing on a bit of an error of judgment here from Royal and getting a lot of value.
And he saves the Nexus back at home. That is crazy. Such a massive swing going the way of Snow. When all is said and done, that CC going to be built on high ground, rebuilt here. Royal just struggling. He wants to get something else going on here with a drop heading around the top side. Snow spots that. He's really not going to get much from it as long as Snow continues to stay vigilant and keeps Dragoons in each of these bases. This shouldn't amount to much, and Snow is in full control at this point.
Yeah, we've seen a few missteps from Snow in game number 1 and what have you, but honestly, still playing like an absolute monster. The dropship did manage to get all the way around the edge of the map. Might be looking to thread the needle here on this 12 o'clock base. 2 Dragoons waiting for them there, as well as I think 2 Dragoons in a natural. The perfect amount to shut down this Vulture harass is going to be making its way into the 12 o'clock pocket now. These 2 Dragoons will be able to basically make this drop not as cost efficient as it would like to be. 2 Dragoons basically the ideal number to have at each of your bases when dealing with that kind of harassment. And Snow not only stabilizing here, but starting to flourish with this 4-base setup.
Royal struggling to just move through his rally point. 2 Reavers over here. They might actually both go down. 2 Reavers going down for free is quite nice. Yeah, those both do die, but still, Snow has a lot of army behind this, and he's going to make taking this 3rd base a living hell. Trying to slowly inch forward here, those Goliaths with their Charon boosters pushing everything back for the time being. Royal here at 13, almost 14 minutes, finally taking this 3rd base. It's highly delayed, but this has been a hotly contested game so far.
Now you can see he's making a 4th CC already. He knows he basically has to double expand from this position. He has to keep growing And unfortunately, Snow is going to run away with this game at this rate if Royal's not careful. He's got a 5th base already online, and it's just so much more challenging to take a 4th base on this map. Diving in for a Storm Drop in the natural expansion is Snow. That's a massive Storm connections on all of those SCVs. Kind of crazy. At least 6, yeah, 6 going down to those Storms, and softened up the rest of them as well. So there's any further Storm drops made to that location, they will die in milliseconds. Sometimes it's not always the first Storm drop that does the real damage. The follow-up drops do even more because of how brittle those SCVs become over time. Now a massive attacking force being mustered to the rally point location of Royal. Snow looking to trade forces with that Sonic Storm Splash upgrade. Some speed loss, trying to get some good mind drags onto the siege tanks of Royal as well. That's a pretty good Storm in the back line of the tanks. Probably won't want to go too much deeper than this though. Just wants to trade off a few tanks, skirmish of the turret, and then back up and rinse and repeat, almost like a PvZ.
Snow's done what he needed to do here. Nothing else is required. Just make it hard for Royal to take that 4th base. That's the main goal. He's trying to push forward here. The moment he does, immediately going to be diving on top of that. A couple of Storms, a couple of Zealots get committed in here. Dragoons, as soon as the Zealots are gone, will back away. And he will just, again, rinse and repeat. Every time Royal tries to move towards taking this 4th base, he should be trying to deny that. And Snow going to start to take masses of bases out on the map. There's nothing for Royal to do except try to expand. So taking his own bases right now is a perfect decision here from Snow.
Yeah, I like the spreading of tanks from Royal, but I feel like it's a little bit too little too late. Loads of speed lots ready to charge in just as he starts to encroach on this natural force. D-Matrix goes down on that periphery tank, but this is a pretty heavy hitting force still. There's some vultures to screen against this, but not enough to snipe these High Templars. Storms are still going off, not as many maybe as Snow would like, but more than enough to siphon off some of the count of tanks. Looks like Royal barely has enough here to surge over to try and secure this location, but those Storms are so huge. Really starting to bleed Royal dry here in this game. Royal's got about a minute or two to successfully get this 4th underway before he starts to dry up in his natural expansion. And he's got the whole split map situation already from Snow. Going to be setting up a second rally point in that top left quadrant. Already ahead of schedule with Snow. Supplies looking actually kind of Royal favored for the time being. We'll see if he can hold the line and secure this 4th and deny any further damage from coming online. Maybe Royal can stabilize this position, slowly split the map in half and take us to super late game, but Snow will be super active with these drops, going for another Reaver Storm combo at that 6 o'clock, taking out almost the entire SCV line. This is just pure insanity. He's really bleeding Royal dry here, Sam.
Oh, what a kick in the nuts there. Royal, he was looking for that 4th base for so long, barely managed to eke that out. In a fight where they went almost even on supply. He managed to get this 4th base, and then the SCV transfer gets caught. Reaver plus Storm. Monstrous combo shot there, just absolutely crushing that mineral line. And now the Reaver gonna get in here with 16 kills, ripping apart this mineral line. It was looking like maybe there was a chance for Royal to stabilize, but now with the forces coming in over here at the 3rd, plus all these drops going on, Royal is being pulled limb from limb, man. I don't see him being able to stabilize here. That was a great mine connection, but Snow is just getting damage everywhere.
Yeah, I think the problem is that Snow's just trading off a little bit too efficiently, siphoning off a lot of these SCVs, and he's still getting good value trades on these tanks when it comes time to it, despite that supply depot wall trying to buffer a lot against that force. There were some really great mine connections on those Dragoons as well as one of the Templars, but this will be non-stop onslaught from Snow. Going into natural 3rd again with some more shuttle follow-up damage, trying to get some massive Reaver Scarab connections. He does evacuate those SCVs to safety, but that's a lot of lost mining time for Royal. You can see he's really hurting on minerals right now, and he's also drawing the attention of Royal, forcing him to transfer a lot of his army back over to this natural third right as the army comes in for a 1-2 punch combo, hoping to trade off more and more of these tanks with some speed lots bleeding through here. And unfortunately for Royal, he's just taking a few too many losses to make this game tenable, I think.
Yeah, getting in here on top of the third. This may be the final blow. 2 more storms go down and the tanks are all gone. GG is called and Royal taps out. Ooh.
Wow.
Another great game there. But Snow managing to eke it out on Radeon as well, really stealing the momentum in this series.
Yeah, it was really well played from Snow overall. He definitely does seem hyper aggressive today, and I'm not sure Royal's got the right answers for it. Have to wait and see what spicy shenanigans are going to be in store for us on the next map, saying though, Death Valley. Let's get it started.
All right, excited to be bringing you guys this third game in our series between Snow and Royal. Death Valley is a map that didn't get a lot of play this season, despite being in the ASL map pool. We didn't get to see a whole lot of games here, but what we did see was definitely a lot of fun. We enjoyed the craziness that this map has to offer, and really excited to see what kind of wacky game we see here from Royal and Snow. Looks like opening up with a wall. Very easy to approach wall here. Just adding the barracks underneath the supply depot there will be a complete and totally ling tight wall. Nothing will be able to get through.
Yeah, and it looks like he'll get this barracks down just before the probe arrives, although he has to be careful not to just lose this SCV to some probe harass. Snow will definitely try and chip away at that SCV with a particle beam. Eventually, Roy will have to cycle off a different SCV to build this like he's doing now. And hopefully he gets a little bit lucky with how this SCV juggles around the barracks and not allow Snow to force too many exchanges of SCVs building it, because it can be a little bit annoying and a lot of lost mining time that stacks up.
Nexus first from Snow after seeing the wall in here. Gas is down for Royal. We'll see if he's able to punish Snow, because it is kind of an awkward map. It's kind of a weird looking map. Looks like he's gonna hop an SCV over on this side. I wonder what he's gonna go for with this.
He could proxy a factory, right?
He absolutely could. He absolutely could proxy a factory, not ruling that out. But there is still the minerals over there, so maybe he's gonna proxy a factory and jump with the SCV.
That's an idea. I mean, he could also try and float the factory into the bottom left corner of Snow's main base and build the vultures inside the base of Snow. It's a little bit ambitious, but I mean, it's technically possible. And he is kind of hanging out with this SCV down here at this like 4th base location. I'm kind of curious what the thought plan is here from Royal. This might just be for scouting, but it could be for like a proxy factory or something wild later. He's making the first factory in his main base. We'll have to see if he wants to make a second one soon. You can never really tell what players are going to go for on Death Valley. You kind of can't rule out anything, right?
Kind of surprised that we saw Royal allow second factory. There we go. I'm surprised to see Royal allow that probe into his main. He didn't have to lift off his barracks. I think it was to save the SCV or something like that, but wasn't altogether necessary. Now Snow gets a really nice scout in there, but maybe that's a bit of misdirection from Royal, showing that he has the factory there in the main, and now he's building the second factory over in the corner. I mean, you can see this from the high ground. I'm surprised to see Royal running his scouting SCV around like that. All it would take is for Snow to see that on the low ground, and he could potentially just adapt his build to this and completely shut it down.
Yeah, I'm really curious how Royal wants to follow this up. I mean, he's forcing a probe evacuation temporary. That's a lot of lost mining time. He's killing a probe or two now as well. Trying to surround that vulture, not successfully doing so. 2 probes have bit the dust thus far. There's a third. This is already becoming exceedingly worth it. A 4th kill. Can he find a 5th? Yes, he can. Royal with a lot of heavy lifting with this first vulture, already taking a nice sizable lead in the economic curve just from that alone, but hasn't gone for a CC of his own back home. He's looking to find damage. Yeah, he's floating that CC, the factory, all the way down to that bottom left pocket like I thought he would, saying, but will we see it, the probe? He's gonna see it.
Oh my gosh, all right. Now the probe could just stay underneath the factory. It's crazy that he's sent this in at this weird angle. If he wanted to send it into the main, he could have built it lower. He could have built it much farther down, but he's going to drag the 1 Dragoon at least into the main base to try and deal with this. Can he make this push work? I mean, it's a 2 factory with 1 factory floating, guys. It's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to have much of a punch to this, unfortunately. Tank does arrive. Some Marines to try and support this. They can soak up 4 phase disruption shots apiece. Has got a little bit of a Sim City to micro back to kind of cover his retreat. He's just going to build vultures inside the main base while pushing down the lane. Can he get some significant damage done? The Dragoons are kind of softened up here. Can't really do too much with this attack. I think the idea was to float this factory where it is now, but with the SCV scout, he saw the pylon was a little bit over to the left, and that wouldn't have been an option anymore. So he was gonna, as a secondary option, float it down to the bottom left corner of the main base of Snow. But then the probe scout saw it in the end anyway. So a bit of a thwarted plan for Royal here, just due to how well prepared Snow was, making that pylon in the perfect position to prevent something like a floated factory from becoming a problem.
Well, the control with the push here on the right-hand side is pretty darn good. I mean, he was almost surrounded by probes with 2 Dragoons. Snow might have been able to just kill this attack, but the tank was pulled back really well, and the target fire was excellent with the Marines and tanks. So some of the Dragoons went down, and he's actually going to get this Nexus incredibly.
Wow.
Killing off the Nexus is
crazy.
Pretty crazy here, considering only having 1 factory building anything and the other factory just floating inside the main.
Yeah, he's actually might be getting a couple of these pylons as well. That's a lot of damage that's going to start to add up. The Zealot clears the mines, though, trying to get some compensation now with Snow, relaying down a few mines in the wake of his tactical withdrawal. Royal still trying to maybe get this second pylon. He's being a little bit greedy here, though. He's kind of dancing with death. Snow tries to mine sweep and does a pretty good job of it, threatening this tank and forcing it home, so he doesn't get the kill on that second pylon when all's said and done. But he was still supply blocked after losing that Nexus. Another pylon now going to be taking the other base now, as is natural, while the base of Royal is now fully operational. This is a really good game for Royal, saying, despite that floating factory falling flat on his face.
Yeah, interesting here also. We're seeing Snow kill the 1 assimilator with his Dragoons on the outside. Very curious play from Snow there, killing his assimilator. It means that his Dragoons won't be able to go into his own main base anymore. And they can't obviously get to this side to help out on this lane, which is where he's expanding. So I'm kind of blown away by this thought process here. Like, what is Snow doing with killing this assimilator?
He's just abandoning this other lane entirely and says, right, you kind of outplayed me in the early game. I now just need to play for the rest of the map. I know you probably expanded to that top lane, and that might give me a little bit of breathing room. I can start to, you know, leapfrog out some expansions on this other wide open side of the map, and kind of just deal with the fact that my initial plan fell through with taking this other natural. I mean, who knows? Maybe this works out pretty good for Royal. It also shuts down vulture harassment on that lane. He's going to apply some pressure with some Dragoons that were left outside of the assimilator on that top lane. Royal doesn't yet know about the fact that Snow decided to kill that assimilator, so he's going to use these to mine sweep, apply pressure, draw the attention of Royal, away from mining out these minerals too quickly on the other side and realizing what Snow's going for. He's going to probably take this mineral only here in a few seconds and try and play for the rest of the map and ignore this top lane for the most part.
Yeah, it looks like it's all going to come down to the bottom left-hand side of the map. That is the larger part of the map, more bases on that side, and so shutting this out, it's only really shutting them out of 2 mining locations potentially. I'm just surprised to see the Dragoons left on that side. If you're going to cut off that side of the map, eventually those units are just going to get cut off and killed. They would have been way more useful on this side, the left-hand side, but as I said, he's going to pull back here, get rid of this one vulture. That's been spotted, the assimilator being killed here. It really does reveal a lot of the idea of what Snow is planning to do from here.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I don't mind him too much keeping these Dragoons over here just to make it a little bit more challenging for Royal to, say, be super annoying and try and get some tanks over to this top lane to start shelling the gateways from outside the assimilators, and that kind of cheeky stuff kind of forces Royal to be a little bit defensive still. And he has contained Royal, technically. Royal's going to have to build up a much larger force to secure this other base. Meanwhile, Snow getting this third online. We're definitely going to have a real game on our hands here. This game, I don't think, will be concluded anytime soon. Snow going to see if he can poke in here and snipe off one of these tanks. That's a mistake. There's way too many tanks here. And look at this counter attack. Here's why he kept these 4 Dragoons on this other lane to help support this Reaver and do a lot of damage in this natural while Royal was distracted trying to break down. This is just insane what Snow's able to do right now. Looks like the shuttle does fall. Reaver now basically dead in the water and will fall, but I mean, this is a lot of lost mining still for Snow, for Royal.
A lot of lost mining time for Royal, and he lost quite a few tanks as well. Plus, I mean, there's Dragoons running into his main base. This is crazy what Snow's able to do, but will be turned around. Has to head back. Has now that mineral only online, and the amount of chaos that Snow's built up in this game, is Royal going to be able to stabilize and get a push going from here?
Well, he's got some scans, he's got some Goliaths. Looks like he's at least going to have enough forces to muster another expansion here. I imagine he's going to start that command center any second now. He could also just go for a push. He's actually got, yeah, he's got 6 factories. I mean, he could just do a massive 2-base timing and just not even bother trying to take this expansion and instead just go full steam ahead. I mean, this could work. He did shut down the shuttle and Reaver, so now all of the eggs are in this basket of this next shuttle and Reaver from Snow. Puts a lot of pressure on him. Does snipe off one of the tanks, trying to secure the high ground away from him. And this is the biggest point of contention now for Royal, is getting up into this high ground area. Snow's doing a good job of forcing him back. Does target that shuttle, takes it out. Now Reaver again dead in the water. Fishing above. That's a massive Scarab connection, taking out 2 tanks and other additional units. Crazy that that Reaver was slugging it out, but still managed to do some critical damage to slow down this timing attack, Sam.
Yeah, he's slowed down this timing by an insane amount just with that single Scarab connection. I mean, there's still a chance here for Royal to push forward, but not with this few tanks. He needs to wait for a few more reinforcements before pushing any further. Another nice mine connection there going in Snow's favor. Here's those reinforcing tanks, and he is gonna very quickly kill off the Zealots here. Tanks just standing strong and pushing forward. Can Royal keep this going? He's been slowed down in his momentum, but he is pretty well all in right here. He stopped mining gas in his main base, and he's only making vultures and tanks to just try to overwhelm Snow. Can he break through? Holding the high ground here is a much better position than before, but these Reavers are just doing so much. That Scarab getting a huge clutch of damage, and another drop here. He's dancing in between the tank shots so beautifully, as he usually does, crushing this attack as it comes across the map.
잠시만요.
Yeah, he's got a few tanks left remaining, but I mean, it's only a few moments until leg enhancements are probably online from Snow. I mean, he was slowed down quite a lot in the early game in the natural expansion, so maybe there's still a little bit of time before those legs come online for those Zealots, but I mean, he's already done what he needs to do in slowing down this attack quite significantly. There's maybe a teeny tiny window that Royal can dive roll through here in just a moment before that upgrade comes online. Snow eyeing up a 4th base now to basically get an insurance policy against Royal. Royal knows he has to do a lot of damage with this push. This is basically his last hurrah in this game to make it work. Snow knows it as well, just shelling him with some Reavers on the periphery here, finding beautiful connections, taking out another siege tank. Just really well executed from Snow all around.
So hard to do a 2-base push against a player like Snow. We talk a lot about Best and how good he is at cracking these open, but Snow is incredible with his Reaver control, and this is when the Reaver is the most potent in this mid-game timing, when the upgrades are not that high and the tank count is not that high as well. There's the Zealot speed. It comes online. Zealot's getting up here into the front line, diving on these tanks. There's still a good deep tank line here at the back, but it's starting to dry up. 3 tanks on the high ground. Just barely holding everything off. I guess that 1 tank is at the bottom of the ramp, probably not on high ground, but Snow has not been too lucky with his attacks lately in this series. The high ground really working against him lately.
This is still a scary army from Royal, though, I guess. I mean, he has got quite a lot of vultures to screen against the speed lots as well. Yeah, he's got 5 siege tanks that are pretty well spread. I mean, there's technically a hope here for Royal. If he can, you know, target fire well with his tanks onto those Dragoons and screen against the vultures appropriately while constantly rallying units to the front, there is a world in which he breaks Snow. It's just a little bit challenging. DT, though, chipping away, takes out a tank even, despite the scan. Now going to be trying to ram it down with these Zealots. Beautiful positioning of the vultures, are screening the majority of them. It's not a bad attempt here from Royal, while the Arclight shot cannons rain down fire onto those Dragoons, trying to unsiege and push forward now to try and seize the day while he still can. There's a few Zealots, though, trickling out of these gateways to try and sandbag this. There's also a DT which he can micro and like pick up in this shuttle over and over again, and 4 scans and attention span out of Royal. Royal, though, he's very close to getting on top of these expansions. I mean, Royal's technically making it happen. He just needs to have enough scan to keep clearing these DTs one at a time.
Yeah, that last fight was pretty rough for Snow. I don't know what happened with the shuttle there. It was kind of hanging out overhead, but he didn't use it to try to bomb Zealots in or anything like that. A lot of the Dragoons got caught up on top of each other as he was trying to push through that position, and Royal's vultures, like the way that he was keeping his vultures together there, he splashed down the Zealots so quickly, and now Royal has his 3rd coming up. This is looking worse and worse for Snow. He does have the Reaver out now. The Reaver's going to get quite a bit of damage with some of these Scarabs, getting rid of the mines as well. Here comes another round of Zealots. Can he break this push? Royal sending up some reinforcements, but they're not quite here yet.
Yeah, I don't know if Snow has enough to break this, you know. And with that 3rd online, Royal sitting prettier and prettier. It's only a mineral only for Snow as well, so he can't really transition into storms or anything. It's purely just Reaver, Zealot, Goon trying to hold the line. And this entrenched fortification of Royal is getting scarier by the moment. If he takes out enough of these vultures and then charges in with enough speed Zealots, though, might see better dislodge it. Takes out the Reaver on the high ground. Kind of crazy. He needs to scan to pull that kind of maneuver off, and he was really on top of things there with his scans to make that happen. Now leapfrogging forward with some turrets. These zoning turrets are so annoying. Once the Terran's entrenched like this, you can't just dive bomb easily on top of the siege tanks like normal. He's also going to put a clock on this natural 3rd. Some Goliaths rotating to support that. Snow is desperate to defend against this. Vultures come out to try and clean that up efficiently. Shuttle goes down. Now he's going to take out the Reaver as well. Snow is in so much pain, but he is going to counterattack at the natural third of Royal with this Reaver while taking some bases in the top right side of the map to try and make up for losing these bases. This is a really wild game, Saiyan.
Yeah, this is going to get really weird if Snow manages to get some bases going in the top right. He is pulling back a lot of these probes. Nexus is going to finish up as well here soon. Snow loses 2 bases, but he kills a lot of SCVs. 14 kills on this Reaver. Looking for a little bit more. There it is, 19 now. So 5 kills with that last Scarab shot. Absolutely ridiculous, but we're going to continue on in this game. I really thought Snow was going to have to tap out here, but he's managing to find some way to stay alive.
Yeah, I still think that Royal is technically ahead here and should be able to close out this game. But I mean, Snow, just an absolute maestro with that Reaver control, keeping himself in it. He's now going to start elevatoring some of these units out up to that like 4th base location from the main to go on the counter attack. Royal is pulling some of his tanks back though, so maybe he'll be okay against this. Also got some vultures hitting the probe line on this top side as well. It's a little bit tricky for Snow to get his units up there to defend against that. He is going to take a lot of losses.
Yeah, a lot of losses there, and the army manages to find a little outpost of Royal hanging out here by this fresh base, trying to push in here. He's actually gonna hope to get a lot of damage with these Reavers, but even with that big damage going down, and all the Reavers die. I think this might be a tap out moment. Even with a lot of SCVs going down right now, the tactical advantage of Royal is a little bit too big.
Right, I mean, Snow's got some zealots in the main base causing a little bit of a headache for Royal, but it's not really enough. And all those probes went down at this 3rd base location in the top right. I think the writing is on the wall here for Snow. He's even looking bad in the supply count right now. His main is mined out. There's just not a lot for room for play now. Royal can even win this game by defending. He can take his 4th base and just sit back and basically let his macro do the heavy lifting here. Vulture's even going to be killing this Nexus on the top right side of the map, and yeah, like Royal's just going to sit here and turtle, knowing how far ahead of the curve he is and how much heavy lifting Snow has to do to find compensation.
Setting up mines and getting prepared for anything. Royal knows not to underestimate his opponent, even in a position as good as this. He's got to be careful, making sure that there's no way back in it for Snow, who's mining basically on 1 base at this point. 3 shuttles making their way forward. The final hurrah of Snow, dropping on top of a lot of these tanks. Reaver in the middle here is going to get targeted very quickly. Nice target fire there from Royal to get rid of that. GG is called. Snow taps out. Royal takes his first victory of the series.
That's a really good victory, and on one of Snow's map picks, 2 to boot. 2-1 currently is leading Snow, but that's a lot of momentum shift here for Royal, and the next map coming up is one of his picks. So who knows, Royal might better equalize on this next map that's coming up. It's going to be Dominator.
All right, Dominator. We got Snow spawning over here in the top left, Royal in the bottom left. Some better colors here, although blue probably not the best on Dominator. It's definitely better than brown on Death Valley. That color should be illegal on that map, man. There's no way that should be allowed.
Yeah, no orange, no brown, no nothing. I hear you, man. Like, yeah, let's just try and keep as much of a contrast as possible. Although the purple looks pretty good with that tile set. I'm not going to complain about that combination.
Yeah, for sure. Better than last game. Absolutely. Royal getting a cheeky win there. I mean, that's the 6 factory push that came out of Royal in that game. I wasn't expecting it to work. It's kind of like, it's funny, right? When we saw game 2, we saw on Radeon, Royal,
Right.
you know, take all these fights and just kind of like not get the best trades over and over and over again, and then eventually Snow kind of win. It's like, what do you tell him as if you're gonna give some sort of advice, right? You can't. The tactics of Royal were fine, but it's like you just need to take better trades. You just need to play better, Royal. That's it. And I think he managed to play better in that last game on Death Valley. He definitely handled those trades better as he was trying to push across the map there with the 6th factory.
No, I think so. And even though the 2nd factory that was floating was scouted, I mean, it did buy time for him. 2 Dragoons were allocated to hammer away at that, making it harder to clear the force in the natural. And, you know, he got a lot of lost mining time. He killed 5 probes with that initial vulture as well. And with that tiny little lead in the early game, he turned that into a very competent timing attack. But it does seem to speak volumes that you need to kind of throw a wrench into the plan of Snow to make a timing attack like that work well against him. And I think he's going to have a slightly harder time in finding that kind of damage against Snow on Dominator, who's not playing Nexus first. But his 2nd factory, okay, this is crazy. Even a pause coming out from Snow saying, crazy fireworks here in the casting booth and the SCSL stage. I mean, I don't even know what to make of this. This 2nd factory seems a little bit of an emotional choice to me. He's just, I don't even know if he had this planned originally. Maybe he just decided he's going to do it with how the series has gone and how he's feeling in the moment. I know Light does that a lot, even though he's quite a, you know, straight-headed guy. When he does pull out the 2 factory, it's usually due to an emotional reaction to something that's happened in that game or the previous game. And I'm curious about now, did Royal pull this 2 fact out because of how things have gone, or was this already planned?
Not sure, but we're getting back into the action, guys. Whatever the reason for the pause, it's been corrected. Snow is ready to go and needs to get some information here. He hasn't been very aggressive with the probe, trying to get past these Marines, and the Dragoon is actually heading back across the map after not catching up with that SCV. So the SCV is still out there, still moving around the outside of the map, and this 2 factory play might go completely undetected.
I mean, it's going to go undetected for the time being, but it's going to be DTs from Snow. And that's going to, you know, hit around about 6-ish minutes, and there might not be a lot of detection from Royal. He is going double machine shop, so it might be that Royal will make mostly purely tanks from this position and trying to exploit the high to low ground transition from the natural. I'm hoping he makes mines. Like, if he just makes non-stop tanks and doesn't make an early mine upgrade, I don't know if he can deal with these DTs appropriately enough. I mean, he has to really steamroll with these initial tanks to be okay here. He's going to have no detection to deal with that DT coming out really early on.
Hiding some of his units here, Royal pulls back. He's just going to reveal the 1 tank plus 3 Marines. These other 3 Marines in the 2nd tank being hidden for the time being. Yeah, it's pure tanks like you were saying. Should be getting that mine upgrade and following up with vultures, but we'll see. Royal starting this push now, and DTs are going to be on the way here shortly.
Yeah, I mean, this free tank push will initially be really strong. The problem is, you know, DTs are on the way. They're going to be popping out just as this attack is starting to do a lot of damage in the natural of Snow. There will not be any detection besides these mines that can maybe snipe those DTs that are going to be popping out. There's the first one. Very crisply timed, as you can see. Royal's been a little bit slow in pulling the trigger on his attack, and that's actually going to help out Snow even more, rather than these DTs popping out as the attack is starting to make connections. All of the Marines falling. Here comes some mines. Can they find good connections? One of the DTs goes down, but massive splash connections. All 3 tanks do fall. Mines being laid in the wake of this DT to try and find compensation and deny any value of this DT getting across the map map, but already Snow slipped out these 3 Dragoons to put on some pressure at the front door of Royal. Luckily, he's got a few mines holding, but he's sweeping with his Dragoons right now to try and keep the pressure alive. More DTs popping out. He will be able to maybe sneak out 1 or 2 of these DTs as well. One of the DTs dying to the mines just outside of the gateway, but there is 1 more left alive.
GG.
Yeah, GG. He taps out. Royal absolutely outplayed there.
Yeah.
Complete domination by Snow. The moment that he saw what was going on, he knew that he had the counter and he played it out beautifully. Building the pylon wall to completely wall in and sending Dragoons around towards the rally point. I mean, pure perfection there. The only way that Royal can really get anything done is by getting mine connections on the DTs and running by with the vultures to try and harass the mineral lines. But in one fell swoop, Snow shuts all of that down and takes the win.
I mean, that's just really well done from Snow. Maybe he was anticipating something like a 2-factory play on that map. I mean, it is a good build for that map. It's not necessarily a good build in general, but if you're going to throw out something like a 2-factory, probably Dominator, one of the better options to do so. Kind of unfortunate he fell flat on his face. Snow getting a massive build order win there, as well as the execution was so clean and crisp. We're going to be jumping into our 5th game of the evening, though. It's going to be Polestar.
Here we go on Snow's map pick, Polestar. In cross map positions, we've got Royal here top left and Snow down in the bottom right. I think I've heard you say this before, but isn't this generally more of a Terran favored map in TVP?
Yeah. The third, the natural third is just so much easier to secure than some of these other maps, and we've talked about it before, how it kind of forms like a natural ring around your base to make it easier to defend against arbiter play and what have you.
Still feels like a pretty balanced map overall, with all the matchups in mind. This is one of our better maps, Polestar, and one of the bigger maps as well. And with this cross map position, would be excellent to get a Nexus first here, but Snow opts for that gateway. Not looking to be hyper greedy on this map. He's got something else in mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a super Terran favored map. It's only like 5%, so yeah, it's like 55 to 45. But I mean, you know, StarCraft, it's a zero-sum game. It's crazy competitive, so any percentage of an advantage is a pretty big deal. Saying gonna be a 12 gas here from Royal. Not going to be electing for something like Shark would do and get that 11 gas and shave off 5 or 6 seconds of that factory timing to punish something like a Nexus first. And like you say, not going to be anything like that this time around. Just a one gateway tech build here from Snow, getting into his forte as soon as possible, having some earlier Dragoons out, and also eventually getting that critical Robo Reaver shuttle combo that he's so good with.
Everything ticking along here. Like a very normal and relaxed TVP. These players have yet to clash in any regard. The probe making its way across the map, gonna scout. And see, the good news here, Royal is as far away as possible. It gives lots of space for Snow to work with. And it will be very hard to push directly across this map. There's so much space to get surrounded here as you push through the middle. Something like a 2-base timing attack can be a real issue for a Terran player to pull off here.
Look at this play from Snow. He's taking a pretty greedy Nexus still. Like, he's skipping Zealot, he's skipping Goon and range, and just throwing this down at 17 supply. I mean, this isn't necessarily a, like a gasless expansion or something. But I mean, it's pretty close to being that. It's almost like that Mong style TVP where you're kind of doing like a bunker expand as well as squeezing out your tech a little bit faster. And yeah, I mean, I kind of like the variation here from Snow. I mean, it's definitely mixing things up a little bit here. And you don't want to be too rigid in a series. You don't want to play the exact same way as often as you can help it, unless you're just running a domination train on your opponent and he doesn't have an answer to your play. It's very important to mix it up.
Absolutely, Snow here being on match point with a lead 3-1. Has some room to maneuver here. He doesn't have to play exactly the his strongest style either. We saw DT play in that last game. That's not something we typically expect from a player like Snow. Definitely wasn't what Royal was expecting there, being that he went for such a heavy tank 2-factory play. Let's see if Snow can pull out some interesting tech and surprise Royal again here. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for like Arbiter or something like that too. He's not really well known for it, but he's definitely competent, capable at using that play as well.
He is. I don't think Arbiters are super strong on this map unless you want to play like a best style Arbiter, like a more stasis heavy Arbiter build where you're just, sharking around the map trying to find a good stasis and tricking the Terran into taking a bad trade and suddenly bullying all of the rest of his army once you've got a massive set of ice cubes going. If he tries to play like a more traditional recall style Arbiter play, I think that's not a great choice of play. I think either just a straight up stasis play or going into his usual Reaver shenanigans will be probably better suited.
You may be right. Goes back to that third base being very protective of the main. Lots of area to throw down turrets and defend up in Royal. He's a very modern Terran player. He's excellent with his science vessels, and getting those EMPs down is not a problem. It's par for the course for a Terran player at this level. He should be able to shut down Arbiter play, just typical Reaver or recall player. Might not be able to get much done against this macro monster. Well, still, like you said, mixing things up in a series is important. We'll see if Snow wants to go for something a little bit crazier here. So far, just getting his third base online at a very quick timing. 6 minutes is a little insane. He's actually expecting no sort of aggression to come out of Royal, and he's pushing right now. He's coming across the map.
I think he is expecting something because he went 3-gate obs, which is very safe against something like Royal is doing, which is a 3-factory pressure build. So I think he actually is anticipating a little bit of a pressure play out from Royal, circumnavigating the main attacking force from behind with these Dragoons, trying to buy a bit of a time and slow down this force indirectly by making them play chase now. As long as he can keep these Dragoons alive, he's going to be sitting pretty. He knows that this is a potentially strong timing attack from Royal, so he kind of has to do some heavy lifting with these Dragoons on the periphery. Royal just laying down some mines in the wake of his flank and then just trying to pull the trigger now and rush all the way to that rally point of Snow. He's finally got that shuttle out. Has got 3-gate Goon worth of production to help buffer against this, but Royal, good execution, can definitely do a lot of damage still.
This is a perfectly acceptable play here for Royal, running right in amongst the Dragoons, but the flank is going to be huge. Some of these mines connect, but Dragoons coming from both sides. There's nowhere to run here with these tanks. He gets a couple of connections, but everything gets wiped out. Calamity here for Royal as he loses the entirety of this force, and all the vultures that are coming up behind this are just going to get wiped out. Snow, oh my gosh, GG. He just taps out. Crazy. Crazy how well Snow cleaned that up. It's basically optimal what Royal was doing there, going in for the 3-tank or the 3-factory timing against this player who's trying to get a 6-minute third base. That's wild that he was able to shut that down so successfully.
Yeah, it's basically like the Ozzy Osbourne of Protoss players there saying, ain't nowhere to run, ain't nowhere to hide for you, boy. And unfortunately, Royal kind of had his number dialed by Snow at the end. It was a really nice idea to go for that 3-factory pressure, but Snow mixing it up, had the perfect read every single time. Like calling that 2-factory play on Dominator and shutting it down with a fast Templar play into DTs, and then saying, I'm also going to shut down your play on Polestar. You're going to probably do some kind of pressure build, and I'm just going to go 3-gate obs, the most safest cookie cutter way of playing Protoss, with a slightly greedy Nexus to kick things off as well at 17 supply, skipping over the Zealot and Goon and range. I mean, I really like these variations from Snow. He's getting away with like the bare minimal greed and then shutting down the pressure that comes to try and punish that greed. It's just really great game theory all around, Sam.
Yeah, really, really solid stuff. It's crazy what Protoss can get away with sometimes, Ben. 3-gate obs and going into a 6-minute third, and he just handles that push no problem. Oh man, gotta be salty there as Royal. He does get taken down 4-1, guys. The series has come to an end. I was hoping we were gonna see a little bit of a closer series here between these two, but Snow undeniably just crazy good in this matchup overall.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. We're taking now a last look at that bracket. Such a convincing, dominating performance from Snow versus Royal. We did kind of expect Snow to run some kind of pain train on Royal, but this was some pretty spectacular fireworks he was able to launch for our viewing pleasure. Next episode, we're going to be having Action versus Hero. I'm so glad we get to cast a ZVZ together, saying we're going to be plugged into the Overmind for that one. What do you think?
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm expecting at least one Hive game. I'll be so disappointed if we don't get there. These guys have played some amazing ZVZs against each other over the years. We had one of the only Hive games in ASL history was between these two, I believe, and was incredible. We get to see some, ultras come out, Queens and Broodling, Defiler, all the good stuff that ZVZ so rarely displayed. We so rarely see games like that, but these two players, they're absolutely capable of going the distance, and they're extremely well matched, and so that's the special combination that allows for that type of game to occur.
And it usually is the cream of the crop players that are able to give us those box art-esque style games where pretty much every unit is being made and utilized in some shape or fashion. Guys, don't sleep on that series. I know it's a Zerg versus Zerg, but trust me, that's going to be an absolute banger of a series. And one of these guys might be able to take down Sulky in a ZVZ in the ASL as well. So, don't count that showing out. I think you should catch that action, even if you're not necessarily the biggest of ZVZ fans. We've had similar things happen, like we did the bombastic Star League Grand Finals cast between Bonif and DeWalt. That was PvP. Usually PvP can be pretty boring, right? That series was anything but boring, and I think that we're going to be seeing that as well with Action and Hero, a mirror matchup, but anything but boring.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to the Patreon supporters. If you haven't already supported the SCSL, go down there and check it out. We'll be back next time with Action versus Hero at the new time. It'll be Monday at noon Pacific Standard Time. We'll be casting that live. So come by, check it out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.